Hi, class. My name is Eliana, and this week we are discussing effective communication in customer service. I may have mentioned in previous discussions that I am currently a manager at a post secondary educational institution for allied medical students. And so, in that, I lead a team of 14 individuals. So you can imagine that pretty much on a daily basis, I am managing quality and customer service between my advisors and our students. And so I see a lot of, you know, both good and bad examples of customer service all the time. With that being said, the first question that I would like to answer in this week's discussion is: have you ever experienced or witnessed poor customer service? What communication barriers caused the breakdown? So recently, I was listening to a call between one of my team members and a student. The team member was actually contacting the student to touch base with them on their academic progress and to just see how things have been going with them in their current course and in life. As soon as the student answered the call and noticed that it was the advisor, they immediately became irate, expressing their frustration at why the advisor had been calling so much, or not even the advisor, just the school in general. Why are you guys calling me so much? I am a 50-year-old woman. I don't need to be babysat. I know what's expected of me. I really need you guys to stop calling me, right? And so, in response to this, the advisor became defensive and immediately was trying to defend themselves in their reasoning for calling the student, and that um just kind of taking it very personally. Unfortunately, that only made the conversation just escalate even further, to the point where the advisor and the student essentially both shut down. The advisor was never able to go over the main reason for the call, was never able to go over any academic progress, because essentially they just found a way to just, essentially end the call with the student, right? And so, in my opinion, where the communication barrier happened was, first, the advisor was not listening to understand. They were listening to respond, right? They were listening and hearing the student, and they were hearing something completely different than really what the student was intending the message to be, which was, I feel pretty confident with my coursework. I don't feel like I really get any value from these conversations. And so, do we really need to speak this frequently? I think the other barrier here was a lack of empathy. I think the team member could have put themselves in the student's shoes and really kind of introspectively say, well, actually, if it were me, I would be pretty upset as well, right? Like, I'd be annoyed at this many calls myself. And so, in doing those two things, this conversation could have gone very, very differently. So, had the advisor really sat there to listen, to understand, they could have picked up on, the message that the student was really trying to send, and could have then responded in a way that was, you know, making the student feel heard, which was to say, hey, I know, I totally understand where you're coming from. If it were me, I'd be feeling the same way. In fact, the reason I'm calling is because I noticed that you were missing a couple items in your class, and I wasn't sure if you were aware that you were missing these items. While I know that you are fully capable of doing your coursework and knowing how to complete it, I would not, you know, I would not be a good advisor if I didn't look out for you. And I think sharing that value with the student would have let them realize that there was a benefit to speaking to that advisor, and there was a genuine reason for it. And it wasn't a lack of trust in the ability of the student to do the coursework, but really a way to, look out for the student in case there was something that they were not aware of. And so, yeah, I would say it was, active listening for sure, showing empathy, um, and being able to create value in the conversation. And as the professional and the expert here. The second question is, if you were training new service employees, what would be your top 3 tips for effective communication? If I were training a new service employee, my top 3 tips would be active listening, as mentioned earlier. And I think that's just because, when you fully listen and understand, you are able to resolve customers' concerns much more swiftly and efficiently than it would be if you were interrupting or if you were just jumping right in to respond to what the first thing that you heard, if that makes sense. The second tip I would give is empathy, because we are human and we want to be heard, we want to be, understood. And I think that being able to find common ground and show someone that you can relate to their experiences or their frustration really goes a long way. And it helps that person meet you in the middle because you've already extended to meet them halfway as well, if that may. And then lastly, I would say adapt. Um, when you work in customer service, you could be finding yourself crossing paths with people with diverse backgrounds, with different experiences, with different intellectual levels, right, of understanding or professionalism, of just normal human etiquette. And so you have to be able to pivot where necessary to meet them where they are, to de-escalate, to use critical thinking, to you know uh, answer their questions and um, give them what they're looking for. Um, and so I think if you do those 3 things, essentially you will have a really good customer service experience. If you know, listen to understand, put yourself in the person's shoes and adapt as needed, ultimately your customer will feel that you are going above and beyond to resolve their concerns in a human manner. Um, and in the quickest way possible because you respect their time. And that is done through active listening and making sure that you understood the first time what their concerns were.